So for my Chapter 10 assignment, I first began talking about the First Amendment, which gives us our freedoms. I went on to discuss the 10th and 14th Amendments, which have been important in public education. And the 10th Amendment states, the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reversed to the states respectively, or to the people. And going on to the 14th Amendment, it guaranteed rights to all citizens. And then from there, I went on to discuss a few court cases. So the Lemon vs. Kurtzman was a case in Rhode Island and Pennsylvania where both enacted statutes which provided aid to non-secular schools. Lemon then filed a claim against Kurtzman, alleging the statutes violated the First Amendment, and won. And this is because the amendment was intended to protect against financial support and involvement in religious activity. Now, the differences between segregation, desegregation, and integration are as follows. Desegregation is simply the ending of that practice. Integration is the sort ordered by Waldrop, and is the reverse of segregation, which is the conscious mixing of people based on race. Now, with the Plessy vs. Ferguson story, or court case, it was a landmark 1896 U.S. Supreme Court decision, and that is because the separate but equal doctrine came into play, and they basically said that as long as they were separate but equal, it was okay. And the Brown vs. Board of Education was a landmark also of 1954 Supreme Court case, which the justices ruled unanimously that racial segregation of children in public schools was unconstitutional. And that proved that separate but equal was not true. Then going on to the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it protects people from discrimination based on race, color, or national origin programs or activities that receive financial assistance. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a law that prohibits employers from discriminating against employees based on sex, race, color, national origin, and religion. The Civil Rights Act was signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson on July 2nd, 1964, and it prohibited discrimination in public places, provided for the integration of schools and other public facilities, and it also made employment discrimination illegal. Going on to another title, the one of 1972, it's a comprehensive federal law that prohibits discrimination based on sex in any federally funded education program or activity. Affirmative action in the United States is an active effort to improve employment or educational opportunities for members of minority groups and for women. The reverse discrimination concerns the unfair treatment of members of majority groups, often resulting from preferential policies enacted by the legislator. And it's also intended to remedy prior discrimination against members of minority groups. And so Section 504 is for children with disabilities who may be eligible for special education and related services under the Section 504. Going on to the PL 94-142, it's guaranteed a free, appropriate public education to each child with a disability. And this law had a dramatic positive impact on millions of children with disabilities. And now the IDEA governs how states and public agencies provide early intervention, special education, and related services to more than 6.5 million eligible infants, toddlers, and youth, and children and youth with disabilities. The RTI is a response to intervention, and it's basically a process for educators to help students who are struggling with a skill or a lesson, and they start off in one section. If they do poorly, then they're going to go into another section, and so forth. And for employer monitoring of email and texting, I found out it's illegal for employers to monitor teacher use of emails unless it is like a college or school district's email system. Then it is their property and they have the rights to go through it and go from there and take action. The risks of social networking, that plays a huge role with students and sexting. because people can be charged with child pornography if they end up with a picture. Cheating with technology, obviously phones are a big deal. So teachers do struggle with that to find out if their students are in fact taking a picture of test answers or looking up answers or plagiarizing. And moving on to the rights and responsibilities as citizens and as students. So the rights of citizens, you have a right to an education. Alien and homeless children also have a right to go to school. Students have a right to sue. They have a right to due process, procedural due process in cases of suspension and expulsion, substantive due process in students' rights to free speech. And their responsibilities are to attend school for all parties. The rights and responsibilities as students, you have the rights of students with disabilities, marriage and pregnancy, because you do have the right to do those. Sex discrimination, you do have the right kind of to do that, but you shouldn't discriminate. Educators must report suspected child abuse and neglect. You do have that right. Responsibility is for you to dress right and look the part. Student publications, corporal punishment, because you want to be on your A game. And educators have a responsibility to report such acts of abuse or neglect.